Hello everyone. Welcome to this interview workshop by Feedback First, which will help you understand the ways to create an effective data science portfolio. That is probably the first step towards cracking any data science interview. So what are we going to learn in this session, in this first workshop? We're going to focus on probably the most important interview question that is going to decide your fate in any interview. Forget about being just a data science interview. And then we're going to understand what exactly is this portfolio? Why is it so important? How to build a portfolio? We're also going to look at the key takeaways, and we're also going to have a brief Q&A. And talking about Q&A, throughout the session, if you have any questions, you can just type your questions in the chat window, and our team is going to help you with the answers. Okay, let's get started. First thing is the most important interview question. Right? All of you guys know this person. The big interview question being asked by Elon Musk. He recently tweeted, like he always does. He said, I just ask one question in any interview when it comes to hiring any candidate, and that question alone is sufficient for me to judge how good a particular candidate is. And isn't that great? All of us might have gone through a variety of interview settings where we were bombarded with close to 20, 25 questions in a matter of hour, where that is roughly 2 questions per minute, isn't it? Right? On the other hand, probably the most successful entrepreneur of our generation, he says, I don't spend so much time asking questions. I just ask one question. What is that question? Tell me about some of the most difficult problems you worked on and how you solved them. He says the answer to this question cannot be faked, cannot be memorized, cannot be even, let us say, prepared well in advance. Because what comes out as a response is a natural response. Either you worked on something interesting or you didn't. Right? You cannot highlight someone else's work when you are put through this question, right? And in majority of the data science interviews, we usually prepare for these questions like, what is the difference between linear regression, loss regression? What is entropy? And when do you use hypothesis testing? So those kind of questions we prepare for, right? And the harsh reality is that you cannot prepare for every possible question, right? Because data science is such a huge subject that it becomes very hard for us to prepare for everything and anything that the interviewer is going to throw at you. On the other hand, if you just prepare for this one question, right, if you are honest about the work that you put in, right, if you actually used data science concepts to solve real world problems, and when I say real world problems, hard real world problems, right, problems that are pretty close to your heart, problems that you are passionate about, then the response is going to come naturally. And that's exactly what people like Elon Musk are looking for candidates. People who are passionate about solving real world problems and also are willing to take the hits and move forward when it comes to solving them. And that's exactly the story that an interviewer is willing to learn, willing to understand. If you do not have these kind of stories, that's when you get sucked into other random questions, puzzles, right? Verbal crackjackers that are going to just fly past your head. Right? Now, in the chat, can you put probably top 3 difficult problems that you solved in the last 2-3 years? Whatever that comes to your mind, just put down in the chat. Well, let us see how many of you have actually faced issues, faced problems, right, while solving some of the problems. It's very important for you to first even understand and prioritize, right, of all the different projects that you worked on, of all the different experiences that you might have had in the last 2-5 years, right? What are the biggest problems? Right, just jot them down in the chat. Right now, when it comes to problems, some of you might have thought, okay, I faced a lot of problems when I was building that model, which helps me in predicting the house prices or Titanic data set. Right? I faced a lot of problems in cleaning the data and everything. Right? Now, this is a typical interview conversation that whenever the interviewer says, I mean, majority of the interviews that I have taken, right, to a data scientist, this is how a typical response looks like. Right? The biggest problem most of the candidates have actually faced is handling a imbalanced data set. But now think about it. That's a problem, no doubt about that. Imbalanced data set is a tough nut cookie to crack. But is that really the biggest problem? Isn't that a problem pretty much with every data set out there? Isn't that a common problem? And the ways to solve them, the techniques that you use are also pretty much pretty popular. It's not nothing that is unique to the problem that you're solving, isn't it? The kind of product that you're building, the model that you're using, right? So the problems, you need not dramatize the problems, but the problem should be, what I would say is, it should be more personal in the sense they should be the scope of the problem should be big and at the same time unique to the data set or the kind of model that you're trying to build, right? Now, how do you get that experience? Because most of these imbalanced data set problems, everything come in when we're dealing with data sets that we might have come across in Kaggle or in online courses, right? Where you neatly have the CSV files coming in. And when you have the CSV files out there, the only problem that you'll find is most of the time is the imbalanced data set because they're already cleaned, right? And somebody has already done the dirty work for you, got the data for you, right? In real world, that's not how it works. In real world, let us say you are trying to build an AI commentator. There is no ready-made data available anywhere. You are supposed to gather the data. You are supposed to annotate it, right? And that data itself comes with a lot of problems. And problems do not stop just by data cleaning. Right? Problems also continue when you're trying to explore the data, when you're trying to put it into a format that all these latest and greatest packages are available, right? And then even when you're using algorithm, majority of the time, the algorithm itself in its purest form might not be sufficient for you to crack that problem. You might need to tweak the algorithm, right? So now you can see, right, the problems are not just with how the data is formatted, right? The problems can be present across the entire life cycle of the model that you're going to build. And that's exactly what interviews are looking for. Can you explain problems that are unique to the solution that you're building? Right? What are the biggest challenges that you faced in solving a real world problem? Right? And that's where people are looking for a portfolio. So now what is a portfolio? So portfolio is the thing that decides whether you are able to make a successful transition to the world of data science or not. It's as simple as that. The buck stops here, right? And what exactly is it? The portfolio aspect of it? It's an ability to show the potential employees what you can do. It's a list of interesting projects that you have done. A portfolio typically is used by design recruiters, people who recruit for designer roles, UX, UI designer roles, because they want to see how nicely, what kind of nice websites did this particular person design. Right? Now the same logic is being applied for data scientists, product managers, software engineers, going forward, because this is the proof in the pudding. Right? Here is where you are able to see whether a particular person who is interested in data science, did he actually apply data science techniques to solve problems, right? Which gives me confidence that he can solve the problems in my organization. Right? So portfolio is that collection of projects that you're working on. Okay, in the next 15, 20 minutes, we're going to see how you can curate your perfect portfolio, right? But the importance is this. You have a good portfolio, it doesn't matter whether you come from oil and gas industry, whether you come from a non-software engineering background, whether you come from a non-statistical background, it doesn't matter. What matters is what you have done, right? And that's exactly what a portfolio does for a data scientist, right? And it helps you get around work experience. Now, nobody is going to say, okay, you just have 2 years of work experience. What if with just 2 years of work experience, you've worked on a wide variety of problems, data sets, right? That start from simple predictive models to complex natural language processing models, where you are building chatbots, recommendation engines, text summarizers, right? A whole set of AI products. Nobody is going to worry about what you've done in the last 5 years. People are going to pay attention to what are those things that you've done in the last 1.5 year, the projects that you built, right? And 80% interviews ask for portfolio, particularly for big MNCs, right? And even startups going forward, they always are looking for talk us through the list of projects you worked on and the biggest challenges that you have gone through when you're solving them. And that's how we know whether you are fit for this role or not. Right? And then not only from the perspective of interview, even from the perspective of learning, because as you guys know, data science is such a huge ocean that many of us don't know exactly what is the path to take to master it, because majority of us coming from different backgrounds. Some of us are engineers, some of us are non-engineers, some of us are programmers, some of us are non-programmers, right? And all of us have a different AI quotient, which means nothing but understanding of AI, right? Now, when you take a real world problem and when you try to solve, let us take an example of you trying to build a recommendation engine, a job recommendation engine. Okay, a recommendation engine that will suggest you the jobs pertinent to data science field and also pertinent to your resume. Now, when you're building a job recommendation engine, you will come to know about the concept of cleaning data using regular expressions to collect data from different websites like Indeed, LinkedIn, and others. Right? When you're building a recommendation engine, you will learn every recommendation engine algorithm out there. Right? Your focus will be completely on getting the recommendation engine right. Your focus will be completely in understanding the whole concept of unsupervised learning, right? And that's the beauty of taking real world projects, real world problems, because they streamline your learning so that you can increase the depth of your understanding of different concepts, right? And that's the power of portfolio. Right? In the comments, maybe you can mention some of those interesting problems that you have in mind. You need not worry about the data sets, right? Our team will help you with data preparation, but you guys can just put in comments about what kind of problems do you think around us that can be solved using AI. That may be an idea that has been with you for the last 2-3 years, or maybe something that you have seen in a movie that you want to implement in real world, right? So it's important to at least document those ideas, because the first step is once you document, you start collecting data, and that's exactly where we can help you. Right? And if you see, these are the real quotations from some of the interviewers in the Silicon Valley, right? If you see, this is how those interviews start with the data scientist. They just ask you, how did the project start? What was the problem that you're trying to solve? How did you plan to measure the solution, right? Because in majority of the online courses, you might have noticed that the machine learning models, whether a machine learning model is good or bad, is decided based on how high is the accuracy or how good is the F1 score, maximum ROC score, right? But in real world, that's not how things happen. In real world, right, you are not just looking at the model from the perspective of accuracy. You're also looking at it from the perspective of interpretability, right? Can I trust this model? What are the factors that this logistic regression model prioritized, which will influence whether somebody is going to default on a credit card or not, right? And how is the general public reacting to this model? Is this model even deployable? Is it going to consume a lot of memory that is going to bring my entire website crashing down? Right? So there are whole sort of other parameters that influence whether your machine learning solution is good or not. And that's exactly what these interviews are looking for, right? And they also are looking for how committed are you to data science, right? Are you completing a course purely from the perspective of getting a certificate, or are you completing a course purely from the perspective of using that knowledge to solve interesting problems, right? And the most important skill of a data scientist is your ability to communicate, because in real life, majority of data scientists build stuff, but the biggest challenge for them has always been to communicate the value to the senior management, because you're sitting in a room of maybe 20-30 people who might not even have heard about hypothesis testing. Now, how do you explain hypothesis testing to somebody, right? Just like you explain a concept to your grandma, right? Can you bring it down to that level? And you will be only able to bring it down to that level if you are really confident about the concept. And portfolios also test your communication ability, right? When you're building a data science project in a Jupyter notebook, can you write down why you have taken certain decisions? Why did you handle missing values using mean? Why not go for median? Right? How did you come up with outlier filtering criteria? What was the impact of outliers? Right? Why did you go with only 3 clusters when you're building K-means cluster? Why did you not go for 7 clusters? Why did PCA help you? right? In improving that model performance, why not go for some other technique, right? So that's exactly the kind of, they want a sneak peek into your mind, into your thought process when you're solving a problem. And a portfolio gives them that lens, that ability to do this by looking at the work that you have done, right? So that's exactly why the reason why portfolio is so important for all these interviewers, right? Now comes the big question. Now you guys are convinced portfolio is important, right? Majority of you might have already heard about this. Some of you might have been hearing it for the first time. Now the next question is how. You understood the what, you understood the why, right? Now how to create a good data science portfolio, right? So we go with simple 5-step mechanism for this. It depends on at what stage of your data science learning path you are, right? These are the 5 proven steps that will help you get a really good portfolio that will land the job of your dreams, right? Avoid popular data sets, have a data cleaning project, have a data storytelling project, take up an end-to-end project, and build an AI product from scratch. Okay, let us see each of these steps in more detail. First and foremost, the most important thing is do not ever use data sets that you get access to in a training program, right? You guys might have heard about Iris dataset. You guys might have heard about Titanic dataset. Don't ever mention this in your resume, right? The reason for that, I don't have anything against these datasets, but these datasets were supposed to teach you how to learn the basics of machine learning, right? These datasets are not for highlighting, right, how well you have done on a particular problem, right? By that, what I mean is, if you guys might have been part of, let us say, Coursera, you've taken a Coursera course, at least lakhs of people might have taken the same course, right? And imagine all these 1 lakh people highlighting the data sets that were used in this course on the resume that we have built this, we have done this, right? And the model accuracy is 96.7, 95.4, right? 93.9. Now you see the problem, right? There is no differentiating. So at the end of the interview, right, the person who interviews you should remember you even after one day for the right reasons, right? Not for the wrong reasons. How do you make that impression? You don't make an impression by highlighting Iris, Titanic, and PIMA, diabetes data sets, and all these data sets, which are fairly common. These are toy data sets. They're supposed to teach you machine learning, and that's their purpose. That's it, right? You can't use them to highlight your accomplishments, right? That's exactly the reason why you should always ensure that you're not taking these popular projects. You should be prepared to work hard, right? When it comes to collecting data. Many of us feel that is a dirty work, but trust me, the data scientists who do the dirty work in collecting data, they are the ones who are going to reap full benefits further down their career, right? And then make sure your solutions also make unique, right? Because it's a fight out there, isn't it? Every training course, every training program, every trainer for that matter, all of us are trying to be unique as possible, right? And also, if you are taking data set which is outside toy data sets, you'll be forced to increase the depth of your understanding of concepts, right? And that is a very important reason why you should be avoiding popular data. Because with popular data, the problem is you are going to always find a solution out there. It will be too easy for you to just Google and get a really good Kaggle kernel that has a really good solution, right? So again, whatever the Kaggle community is doing, it is for enhancing the learning aspect of it. But when you are looking at replicating that in your resume, that's not the right way to go. You should be able to contribute more by looking at solving your own problems. And that is the first step, avoid popular data sets in your portfolio. Second step is, as I told you, doing the dirty work, data cleaning project. I once hired a data scientist who was awesome in the interview, right? He knew all the concepts, machine learning, deep learning, reinforcement learning, even GANs for that matter, right? But then we had to let him go within 6 months. The reason for that was he was not prepared to work on cleaning the data, right? He was reliant on us giving him data, whereas what we wanted was somebody who can even tell us how or what data is required, right, to come up with the valuable use cases. We tell him the use case, but he was not really interested in collecting the data. And those kind of data scientists if you ask me, are not that highly useful for any big company, for any major company, right? So that's the reason why we always focus on understanding from next time onwards, right? For subsequent interviews, we always understood, okay, what kind of data cleaning process you've done, right? How problematic was the cleaning process, right? So because if you look at it, majority of the times in enterprises, you are collecting data from a data warehouse. So as a data scientist, you need to have a basic understanding of SQL, right? So what's the difference between a transaction database? What's the difference between transaction database and a data warehouse, right? What is a fact table? What is a dimension table? Right? How are these schemas correlated? How do you capture a business event, right? So what kind of data did you collect? What kind of measures did you take, right? So when the data was in different format, let us say CSV format, Parquet format, JSON format, right? When the data is of different formats, how did you clean them, right? When the output variable itself is not there, let us say you're trying to summarize videos, right? In which case you don't have any output, right? You need to manually look at videos and do manual summarization, manual annotation. Right? How did you do that manual annotation? Did you automate that annotation part? What kind of creative ways did you find to speed up the data cleaning process? Right? These are the kind of things that as an interviewer, I'm interested in. Right? Always highlight what was the first initial stage at which you found data and what was the final stage. Right? So before you moved on to data exploration, take a data cleaning project end to end. And this is where knowledge of regular expressions would come really handy. And at the same time, you'll also be able to understand, right, in enterprise world, what are the different challenges? Because building a data science product from scratch is not easy. There are just a whole slew of challenges awaiting you. And you highlighting a data cleaning project on your portfolio is only going to keep you in the good looks of the interview, right? That is the second step. Once you avoid popular data sets, you start focusing on creating data sets of your own, and in that, select a data cleaning project, right? So in the comment section, we're also posting a link that will also give you access to close to 40 projects that we have curated, which are all unique, which are real world problems, right? And you can start collecting data or using them as reference for your portfolio, right? Now the third step, this is a storytelling project. Now when you're telling a story, right, the biggest, what are the key aspects of a story? We all like movies, right? What are those movie stories that we like? We have a situation that the protagonist finds himself in, right? And he has a problem. There is some problem, right? And the bigger the problem, the more memorable the solution, right? And similarly, in the case of storytelling project also, you pick a really big problem, right? And then piece it down, right? You just break it down into multiple pieces, right? Multiple angles to that problem, right? Something like AI commentator, which is a huge problem, building a AI commentator, right? That can summarize cricket matches, football matches happening, right? And you should be able to divide it, break it down, and then see how you can communicate the value. Right? For example, if you're building a commentator, first you need to collect videos, and then you need to collect videos to frames, frames to images, images to text. Right? There are so many different paths. Right? Now you need to connect all of these things together, right? By using nice visualizations, add color to your analysis, right? And write up a narrative. Right? Make sure that you are having nice enough charts, visualizations, and make sure that your Jupyter notebook is following a logical structure, and it's easy for the end user to follow, right? And then highlight the learning that you got from the project at every point of time. After maybe converting video into frames, right? What was the biggest takeaway? What are the different techniques that you have used? Which technique did you find the best? What was the biggest challenge? Highlight them, because in a story, detail is very important, right? Go really detailed into this project that you're going to add to your portfolio, right? And then at the end of the project, again, finally, everybody remembers the ending of a movie, of a really good story, right? You end it with a bang, right? By focusing on what exactly is the value of this project to the end user. Always have an end user in mind, right? And ensure that you are able to make sure that that user is benefited, from this story. Right? And that, my friends, is the most important angle to a data storytelling project. Here, the focus is on visualizations, add color, right? Ensures that even for a person who doesn't know anything about data science, he should still be able to understand your project, right? That is the second kind of portfolio project that you can have in your portfolio. Now comes step 4. This is an end-to-end project. Now, difference between data storytelling project and an end-to-end project is that here you are not just looking at visualizations, right? You are not just looking at model building, right? You are not just looking at data cleaning. Here, the focus is equal on every aspect, right? There is equal focus on data cleaning, equal focus on data exploration, focus on storytelling, and even model deployment. And can you actually create an API for your model, right? This is end-to-end project, the end-to-end project that you are looking at, right? And here you are supposed to figure out, right, how to operationalize the model, right? How do I ensure that maybe integrate this with Slack, right? Like let us say you're building a chatbot, integrate this with Slack as user interface, or create an API and build a simple front end, right? With using which the end user can make predictions. Let us say you're building a house prediction model, your house price predictor. Once the user enters the different house attributes, he should be able to get a price. Your model should be able to give him a price, right? And then add documentation and make sure that you are completing the project end to end, right? Where you have equal focus, because in real world, we are looking at people who can drive a project end to end, right? And that's exactly what this end to end project does, right? And here again, remember, the focus is in completely making sure that you are doing data cleaning, data exploration, feature engineering, model building, model evaluation, and model deployment, right? All the 6 phases of a typical machine learning pipeline you are going to showcase in this project, right? This is the end-to-end project you can take. Now comes the big one. This is something totally different from all the 4 steps. All the 4 steps so far were talking about projects, right? Here we are talking about building an AI product from scratch. Think of YouTube, think of LinkedIn, think of Amazon, right? All of these are, why are they so popular? Why are they so addictive? Because if you see, they're all powered by machine learning underneath, right? And what if you can build something like that? Now, you guys must be thinking, as a data scientist, how will I build a product? It requires UI, it requires database knowledge, it requires you to maybe mobile app development, build a mobile app. That's exactly the point. If you, as a data scientist, can also gain necessary skills, right? You need not be an expert in front-end development. You need not be an expert in database administration, right? But if you can just have that penchant, the curiosity to learn other technologies and build a simple website, right? Or build a simple mobile app that can solve a problem, you will be making an everlasting impression, right? Imagine this. If you can go to the interview and then if the interviewer asks you, what did you build, right? Just showcase a job recommendation engine that you built, right? And then ask him to access it through the URL. You guys must be thinking, isn't that too much? Isn't that a lot of overaction? Who does it like that, right? Personally, I've done it and it worked, right? So there is no reason why it cannot work, right? Because rather than me just faffing around, explaining in making the interviewer imagine stuff about my past, how about I just show what I've built in the past and let him interact with it directly? I'm showing him something physical, right? A physical piece of work, which is a website, a mobile app, right? And that is going to make an impression on this. And this is not easy, right? Compared to the previous 4 steps, this is probably the biggest and the most difficult step, right? And for majority of us, we are trained from the childhood to be specialists, right? You be good at one thing. For the first time, you are being asked to do some things that are completely outside your comfort zone, right? You might have to learn JavaScript. You might have to learn Node.js, right? Or backend development, right? And that therein lies the difference. If you can do that, which not many of us are willing to do, that's how you differentiate, right? So here you also use design thinking. You first identify who is the target end user, what are the biggest pain points that people find themselves in, right? And then build a simple front end that allows the end user to interact with your application, and then have the backend integrated with your machine learning model, right? And then once you are done with satisfied with the initial model performance, you just deploy it in the cloud. Make sure that that website URL is accessible to everybody, right? This is that ace in the hole, that this particular option will definitely land you the job of your choice, right? Now, for those of you who are thinking, isn't this a bit too much, right? You wish to learn AI product building, but it is just such a huge path because machine learning itself is a huge ocean. And here, if you're looking at adding front-end development, adding back-end development, right? And then database administration, all this stuff, it looks a bit overwhelming, isn't it? Right? That's the reason why we at AI Quotient have curated this program called Feedback First, right? Where you'll be getting personalized mentoring, right? Each of you will be in different at different levels, as I told you already, right? So based on your current understanding of AI Quotient, AI world, right? You choose a project, you choose an AI product, and you will be getting personalized mentoring. You'll be getting assignments, assessments, right? That will help you understand this world of data science and build an AI product of your choice, right? So that is exactly what the Feedback First program is all about. The brochure link is something that we are posting as we speak in the comments, and you can have a look at it, right? And this is what we have done in the last 1 year, right? So ever since Feedback First started last year, we were able to guide people. So these are the different product ideas that currently students are looking at, the current cohort is looking at. So some of them are building credit scorecard, right? There was a person who is building FAQ chatbot, right? There's a lady who is building job recommendation engine, as I told you, a banking anomaly detector, celebrity tweet analyzer, right? Product review summarizer. These are some of those interesting projects, the products that people are building, right? And we have people starting from different backgrounds. And as long as you have done basic machine learning courses, right? Online courses. And if you have basic grasp of these technological concepts, you're good enough, right? Here, the focus is not on sharing curriculum that is common to everybody. Every one of you is unique. Every one of your problems is unique. And that's the reason why our teaching methodology is also unique. It's personalized to you, right? And this is how a typical coaching plan looks like. So let us say you want to build a text summarizer, right? So we start with you focusing on identifying who the target personas, so who exactly is going to benefit from a text summarizer. We'll be using the design thinking approach to chart out the empathy map, chart out the customer journey, right? And then you'll be you're learning something regular expressions, right? To kind of extract data, to get data from different sources, right? And then we talk about setting up the natural language processing pipeline, right? Generate word vectors, generate text sentence vectors, right? And then evaluate the models. And finally, deploy the model by using Flask, Django, right? And Streamlit and other front-end technologies, right? So this is how a typical Feedback First program looks like. And again, even if you're not interested in joining Feedback First, the idea here is when you are building a product from scratch, these are the steps that you need to follow. This is advantage, right? Now that you know you are able to, you're trying to build a text summarizer, within a matter of a month, you will become proficient at text summary because you're going to be focused on building it. You have detailed out the steps to build it, and you'll be able to understand what does it take, what are the challenges, right? Maybe when you are running regular expressions, you are in a huge challenge, right? That the website keeps on updating the data, and that's a big problem, maybe, right? Or the word embeddings, they just keep on. You are unable to maybe train the model, right? It was there were like too many dimensions in the input text. Right? How did you manage that, right? And when you summarized it, it was very difficult for you to evaluate the model because it's an unsupervised learning technique, right? How did you collect feedback? What kind of metrics will you use, right? These are the kind of challenges that interviewer is looking for, and these are the kind of challenges that will make you stand apart from the rest of the candidates in an interview, right? So now imagine once you build a product, then the conversation will change. Right? Now look at this person. So by building a job recommendation engine to assist in his job search, right, he found that the results were biased. The recommendations were biased. So he tweaked the original algorithm, and that helped him land this job. right? Land this job interview. Now see how different of an impression this response has on the interviewer compared to his original response, which was about a problem that majority of us face, imbalanced data sets, right? These are the kind of problems that are interesting to the interviewers, and they always would love to hear more about these things, right? So this is the goal of the whole idea of portfolio. This is how you actually build out a portfolio that impresses interviewers and crack the interviews, right? So coming to the key takeaways of the session, the key takeaways from this discussion, from this first workshop, are that you are looking at solving interesting problems that add value to an end user, right? Do not take problems that everybody is working on. Every training course is offering data that you can easily find on the internet. Those are good problems, no doubt, but they're not going to add a lot of value to your resume, right? And then design an eye-catching portfolio. Make sure it is diverse. Have a data cleaning project. Have a data storytelling project. Do an end-to-end project. And if it's possible, if you are really, really committed, build an AI product from scratch, right? And trust me, the challenges that you come across when you're building an AI product, nothing can match it, right? If 4 people are deploying the same machine learning model to Google Cloud, all 4 of you will get different issues. It is that volatile, right? Particularly operationalizing AI. And that is the biggest challenge that is going to teach you, right? All the things, all the tricks of trades that are going to help you land your data science job, right? How the end users perceive your product, what value your product actually brought to the end users. Those are the challenges that the interviewers are looking at, right? And always focus on highlighting the challenges and learning in the interview, right? Even if the interviewer asks you a question about an algorithm that you never even have heard about, right? You just say, okay, I never heard about that, but this is an algorithm that I've used in my project. You always try to pivot the discussion back to the work that you have done, right? Because your work will not let you down, right? And you also want to work in those companies that value your work, right? More than your theoretical knowledge, the companies that value practical knowledge are actually the companies where you'll be enjoying your job the most, right? So it's a win-win situation both for the interviewer and for yourself. Okay, and also when you are working on these projects, because there is focus, you also increase the depth of your understanding. Right? Cool. Any questions? Do shoot them in the chat window and our team is going to answer them. Right? In the meanwhile, for those of you who are interested in learning more about the whole concept of feedback first, right? How feedback first works and what exactly are the different things that you can take about, right? So you can always visit our website. The link to the website is in the description of this video. You can go there, right? And if you have any questions, you can always send your questions to this email ID, support@aiquestion.app. I will be more than happy, right? So maybe some of you have attended interviews, right, and were unable to crack it. Or maybe some of you are just starting your interview preparation, right? So just write to us, right? If you're interested in our program, more than willing, more than free, right, to join the program, to enroll for the program. And if you're not interested in the program, right, if you have any questions, any concerns about your current process, current journey, right, we'll be more than happy to help you. Okay, so even after this this session is done, you can still reach out to us by dropping email to this email ID. Okay, cool. I wish you all the very best for your success. Right? Make sure you, whether you make a transition or not, solve problems around you, and that itself is automatically going to lead your career forward. Right? I wish you all the very best, and thanks a lot for attending this first workshop. We're going to have more workshops in the coming weeks, and do stay tuned. Do subscribe to our mailing list, right? And you should be able to get invites, and hopefully we'll again meet soon to discuss even more tips and techniques about how to crack the famous and tough data science interviews.